There have been numerous challenges in agriculture. One of the things that you have been instrumental in helping to overcome is that messaging to people out off the farm, outside of the farm, through USFRA. That was your brainchild.
Well, it was an interesting undertaking, and success has many parents, and failure is always an orphan. But Rick Tolman from the Corn Grower and I got together, and it was interesting because corn and soybeans had never really worked together before. And Rick and I would talk about why that was over the years that he led Corn Growers and I was at USP. And interestingly, one day we were sitting there and we decided that we were going to do something together, and we did. And then from that, we actually said, well, if this works, we can do some other things. And fortunately, at the same time, there's always this division, if you will, between the row crops and animal agriculture, the organizations. They always kind of were on their own tracks. And it just so happened there were a couple leaders in the animal ag industry who were, we both knew, Rick and I knew, and we began to talk through what ifs and what if scenarios. And USFRA, which was a huge undertaking by a lot of people, grew out of that. And so I'm really proud to have been a part of that. And I'm really proud of it because I do believe that we have had a number of attempts at this, and this has been the longest sustained effort, and it's brought industry in a positive way. So I think it's all working in the right direction, and it's very gratifying to see that.
Sometimes you need to stay in your own lane, and sometimes you need to
exactly
work together. What are some other areas that you would like to see more organizations working together, and not necessarily just strictly within agricultural commodities, if you will?
Well, I think the huge example of that is I remember it was in '97 when the first soybeans went to Europe that were biotech soybeans. And we've gone through the biotech era with all the bumps and bruises. I think that the industry accumulated, and so I look at the technology as it's advanced, and now we're at a point, Cindy, where we're having new technologies come to the forefront. We're still in the trenches on biotech, commonly called GMOs by the non-farming public, and so we're looking at the CRISPR-Cas technology, the whole gene editing area, and if you look at that whole set of technologies and the opportunity that it creates, I think that's a prime opportunity for ag and non-ag entities to come together, for all of ag to come together, first of all, and then non-ag entities to become involved in a process that really is going to have tremendous benefits to mankind in the future. We obviously have to have the kind of disciplines in place, and I think everyone in ag understands that. I think it's relatively understood, but we can't be put in the same position, I think, that we were put in with the biotechnology and the GMO era, where it's really become a non-tariff trade barrier. It's become a fundraising flag for some of the NGOs, and so it's perpetuated, it's political, and I think if we can take it out of that realm and create a large enough critical mass of entities beyond agriculture that comes together and works on this in a positive, proactive manner, I think we have a huge opportunity.
We have been hearing for the past several years how the population in this world is going to grow to 9 billion in a short amount of time. What role does the soybean have in fixing that problem and feeding the world?
Well, it's a really interesting question because yields are increasing, and when I came to USB, yields were increasing at less than a quarter bushel a year on average. They're now, I was talking to some of the breeders at some of the companies, and they think that they're at or above a bushel a year average increase in yield. So that's one thing. USB is very much focused on the whole idea of improving the oil with high oleic, but also improving the meal component, and doing that in a sustainable manner. And frankly, if we can reduce the non-soluble sugars in soybeans without getting too technical, and basically converting that to oil and protein that is usable in animals and humans, that's one method of doing that. I think that the overall, as you're able to look at what the world is going to need in the future. I was reading an article the other day that food production is going to have to increase by 60% in order to feed those people, and there are varying estimates, obviously, of that. But I think the opportunity that we have in soybeans is really tied to this idea that we need to be much more efficient in what we do. We need to be able to cut down the food losses in the whole chain, and that certainly goes well beyond soybeans. But I also think that this opportunity is one that creates a whole different way of thinking for people. And you have to first be able to think differently about how you're going to do this in order to actually be able to achieve it.
That's a big job for anybody, and for when you think about the role of a soybean farmer, I mean, they're farmers first. They have a lot to do back home at the farm. So to be a part of the United Soybean Board, that's a major obligation and opportunity for those farmers.
Well, it certainly is, and we have done a lot of work with our growers to make sure that they have all the information that they need to make good decisions, and that takes some work on their part. It certainly is a different way of looking at things at times. And at the same time, we've done a lot of work on diversity over the last few years. We have much younger people coming into the organization as directors. So there's great opportunities for farmers there. And certainly from a gender standpoint, we have a lot more women coming into the organization, and literally throughout the whole, from the state level on up. So that's really positive. And I think that, again, I think the idea of thinking differently, the first strategic plan that I wrote with the board was a 10-year strategic plan. Well, you don't write 10-year plans anymore. We write a 5-year plan, and we look at it about after 2 years to make sure we're on track. But that 10-year plan was literally to increase the production of soybeans from 2 billion bushel to 3 billion bushel over a 10-year period. And we had people that really questioned our sanity with that kind of goal. The reality is we reached that goal 2 years early. And so what it really says to me is that if you think differently about how you want to do something, and you begin reaching out and expanding the horizons of the organization, you can literally do anything. We have a budget that we work with at USB that's about $90 million, and we leverage another $115 million against that. So what that says is that for every dollar the farmers are investing, I'm going to industry, the people in the organization are going to industry, talking to industry, and getting industry to co-invest in those opportunities with us. And I believe that's a tremendous story, and I believe that's the way that you gain the kind of opportunities that you otherwise might not have.
Relationships and working together.
Right.
One of the highlights for a lot of young farmers involved with soybean production is the opportunity of the See for Yourself tour. Let's talk a little bit about that. I had the opportunity to travel with you on one of those, the benefits to those young growers.
Right. Well, it was interesting. That was not my idea or USB's idea. The folks at the Minnesota Soybean Organization started this process, and they took people around the country, and they did things in conjunction with their association. So they took them to Washington, did things. Well, we couldn't do that, so they came to us and said, this would be a really great opportunity. So I look at See for Yourself from really two perspectives. One is an opportunity for people who are, and we really specify for applicants to be outside of any of the soybean organizations. So we want to have an unbiased look, or a look through unbiased eyes from these people. And we select 10 people. And when we started out, I think we only had 8 applicants. Now we have just multiple applicants and have to go through a very, very rigorous process of paring it down to get to the 10 people that are going to actually be on this opportunity and participate. So what we're looking for really is an unbiased source, and then we have news media go with us, such as yourself, and interview these people and distribute that through the media to a lot of different outlets, and it really creates an opportunity for those people to give an unbiased view to other farmers of what this program is all about. The other part of it is it's a recruitment tool. And we're really trying to, again, we use that from a diversity standpoint to get a different group of people in and show them what the organization was about without having them be in a position where they're having to make those decisions immediately, and they could really understand better the organization. And if you understand something, it's a lot easier to be able to grow into that situation. So it's really been very, very successful. It has been one of those things that, as you look at it, has really provided a lot of benefit to a lot of people.